Welcome all. I hope that you all are enjoying the Climate Summit this week, and thank you so much for tuning into this conversation, collective advertising for people and planet. Let's get started. My name is Veena Harbaugh, and I'm the marketing director for BLab US and Canada. And I want to get right into it because we'll be joined today by 5 incredible speakers who are passionate about reimagining advertising and marketing. Advertising is a $1 trillion industry that is a driver of unsustainable consumption that is harming the people and the planet. When we look at the language that's in advertising, it's easy to see the roots of capitalism, colonialism, and militarism in the industry's history and current practices. Words like targeting, consumers, user acquisition really reveal kind of the core mindsets within advertising. So as B Corps and companies committed to people on the planet, we really have to interrogate and adapt our practices and lean into our greatest asset, which is our collective power to make change. That's what today is about. We have 5 incredible people who are doing just that. And before we meet them, I just want to share a few reminders. The first is to please, in this session, follow our code of ethics, which we will paste into the chat. Also, this is a meeting, so we're using the meeting format, which means please keep yourself on mute unless you are a speaker or are chiming in with a question. We will be recording this and uploading it on YouTube. So it'll only spotlight and record the speakers, so please just stay on mute if you don't want to be in the recording. So with that, let's meet our speakers. They'll each introduce themselves and I will kick it off. As I said, my name is Veena Harbaugh. I use the pronouns she, her. I'm speaking with you today from the SF Bay Area, which is on the land of the Ohlone people. I'm a mixed race woman. For my work, I lead marketing at BLab US and Canada, but I'm also a wife, a friend, a floral designer, dog mom. And I can't wait for you to meet the other really incredible people who are here. So Lynn Johnson, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see everyone, even though I can't see most of you, but it's great to see your face, your names here in the participants list. My name is Lynn Johnson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am coming to you today from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of the Pueblo people. And I am also representing a company that I'll tell you about later, Hella Social Impact. I identify as a serial entrepreneur, especially within the B Corp community, a Black, queer, woman, wife, mother, and I also am known for being an amateur mixologist. And I'll pass it on to John.
Thanks, Lynn. My name is John. I'm the brand editorial director for Avocado Green Brands. We make organic mattresses, bedding, and furniture. I use he, him pronouns, and I want to acknowledge that I'm also calling in from New Mexico on land stolen from Taos Puebloans. I am a husband, a brother, an outdoors person, and for work, my focus is really on content marketing and brand marketing, and consider myself a writer and an editor.
Thanks, John. And Dustin Thomas, please introduce yourself.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Dustin, here happily today from Maui, Hawaii. I work with Guayaki and their Come to Life initiative, and very happy to be here today and learn and share with everyone.
Thanks, Dustin. And Goldar Hood. Oop, on mute.
Helps to come off mute. Gold, I identify as either she, her, or they, them. I'm a queer Italian American who is currently in Sicily, which is a little bit cooler. I am somewhat happy and somewhat sad to say than I think many of the climates are right now. I'm the founder and CEO of Ads for Earth, and we're disrupting a number of things in this space to really try and bring the ecosystem together to create change. And in my home life, outside of being a CEO, I'm a partner, and occasionally I even get to serve as a daughter and as friends.
Thanks, Gold. And Abram Tannenbaum.
All right, yeah, I'm Abram Tannenbaum, or Abe, and use he, him pronouns. I'm calling in from Portland, Oregon, and we're on land of Multnomah people, but Portland was also a major trading hub for many of the tribes. There's a lot of tribes in Oregon, so just acknowledging all of them. And yeah, my company that I helped co-found in 2015 is Grapevine Outdoor. So we're an outdoor advertising provider. So we have billboards and other physical ad space throughout Portland. We're pretty small startup here, but we're growing, and we became a B Corp in 2020.
Awesome. Thanks, Abram. And so the flow today, we're going to ask a few questions to each of our speakers. Of course, leave time at the end for your thoughts and questions. So I'd love to start with Lynn. Lynn, you mentioned you introduced yourself as a serial entrepreneur, which in the B Corp community, the folks probably know you from your work with Spotlight Girls, the Dismantle Collective, or emceeing and speaking at B Corp events. But as you mentioned, they might not know about your new venture, Hella Social Impact. Tell us a little bit about Hella Social Impact and what you all do.
Sure, and I want to say that I miss folks, like when I emceed in 2019, that's the last time we were all like together in space, not virtual. So I can't wait to like be with everybody again in real space. But for now, it's great to be here in virtual space. And I have over the past, gosh, it's been less than a year, over the past 7 or 8 months, especially after everything that happened last year with the pandemic and with the racial awakening, and with all of us, especially in this community, looking to figure out how do we really honestly, authentically, and intentionally and impactfully show up for racial justice, given that we're called to do so at this time. How do we do that? And that's what Hella Social Impact is all about. I co-founded the company along with 3 other women of color, Black women and non-Black women of color. And we are a consultancy that lies at the intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and marketing and communications. And that's what we do. We help folks show up for racial justice inside business and nonprofit communities.
That's great, Lynn. And as I'll mention that we've gotten to work with Hella Social Impact, and have just really learned alongside some B Corps there. First, just kind of big picture, I want to ask you, the concept of this panel is about advertising that benefits people and planet. In your mind, what distinguishes advertising that benefits people versus harms people?
Yeah, so in our work at Hella, we're all about telling the story. We're all about, so one of the things that we say, kind of our theory of change, as it were, is, it's really important for us to do the work, tell your story, and then earn trust. And so we are really all about how do we align our internal work, our internal cultures, our internal commitments with the external stories that we're telling. And so I think that, we see it a lot in our work, especially in the B Corp community. We see it all the time in greenwashing and rainbow washing. And now we're seeing so much woke washing, right? This idea of we're going to try to spin it and tell people what they want to hear. But in the meantime, like, our internal house is in order. Our company culture is not based in humanity. It's not, we don't have a diverse culture. We don't know how to create inclusive and belonging spaces. So we kind of think that advertising, as it were, needs to take this kind of inside out approach so that it's not harmful, so that companies are really like, we're leading the way, we're doing the work, we're making the impact, we are showing up for people and planet, and then we're going to tell stories from that place. And that's where we think it's really important to enter into this, because it is harmful when you are not aligned. You're just you are just spreading stereotypes, you're sharing the same stories, the same harmful stories over and over again. You're not representing people who have been marginalized. Or even, I don't know if it's worse. I don't know if it's worse to not represent or to misrepresent. I don't know, we can argue that. But those kind of telling stories from an inauthentic place is where it's really harmful. And so we're all about not doing that. And I assume that my colleagues on the panel agree with me on that.
I assume the same, Lynn. But what I learned in the 6-week cohort, learning alongside other B Corps is, even if we're all at the starting place of having an anti-racist commitment or, internal desire to dismantle white supremacy, it's still kind of a complicated path forward from there. So how do you take companies that have that, desire, either formal or informal commitment, and get them to a place where, they're clear on what's happening at their company and, a plan for action of changing their practices and their marketing?
Yeah, great. We work with our framework, that our racial justice spectrum. And our racial justice spectrum kind of helps companies move in the direction of actual impactful change. Our spectrum is very simple. It's notice, name, and dismantle. And the notice, name, dismantle racial justice spectrum is this kind of space of really it starts with noticing, right? It starts with understanding the historical and present day realities of what's going on inside of your company and inside your community. I can't move on without acknowledging that, that today is July 1st. There's the controversy around Canada Day. Some people are like, let's not celebrate Canada Day because of everything that's happened. We're noticing all the atrocities of what's happened with the schools, residential schools in Canada. So that all that work is part of just like noticing what's around, noticing the land that we're on, noticing how this land was extracted, and the way that extraction has caused all of the environmental issues that we're working against right now. So that kind of phase of noticing. Then you move into naming, and naming is about taking responsibility for that. It's about saying, yes, let's take responsibility for what's actually happening and speak plain about it. So as storytellers, we have to start telling the real story, speaking plain, and taking responsibility for harm that's caused, so that we can go into the final step, which is dismantling, which is about really showing up and getting rid of or radically changing policies, procedures, campaigns that are causing harm, and making way for something that's much more healthy for people and planet. So we take people through, and Veena, you mentioned the Hella Intensive, which is our 6-week cohort. It's an action cohort. We have one coming up actually in August, specifically for consumer packaged good companies. And we just did one for B Corps. And, where it's about learning together, but it's also about how do we like hold each other, because the work is really hard. We have to, it takes that naming especially is super messy work, right? And a lot of feelings come up. So how do we hold each other so we can make actual action steps to get to what do we need to do? And our assessment allows people to kind of get to that place so that they can tell those authentic stories.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to start with you today, Lynn, because I think any company that's tuning in today that's interested, right, and better leveraging their advertising platforms or kind of engaging in collective advertising, to really start from a place of saying, hey, where are we at? What, right. and not just, one perspective or a few folks that might be on your team, but really looking deep into the company and developing it as like a continual muscle of, it's not just like one time, but we've learned so much. It's a continual process, and you notice, name, and dismantle one thing that reveals 5 more
yes.
you need to make.
And it's also connected, like what B Lab is doing, right? With like B Lab is really now taking a leadership position in like climate justice, how the interaction between racial justice and environmental work, and there's so many pieces to that. I mean, there's just so many pieces, and everything kind of is all connected. So once you pull one string, something else unravels. So we have to keep figuring out how we stay active, how we stay in an active place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lynn. And for folks tuning in, I want to make this really concrete too. So by sharing some examples of B Corps doing this work. So I'd love to ask John from Avocado Mattress just to tell us a little bit about your marketing. Who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to influence them? What do you want them to think and feel and do? And how is that maybe unique from others in your industry?
Yeah, if you look at who buys avocado mattresses and bedding products, it's this really diverse, broad audience. We're using our mattresses as a vehicle to really raise the bar for sustainability and to elevate awareness about the climate crisis to this big general population. At Avocado, we really think about ourselves as an environmental platform. And so I think one of the things that sets us apart is that we keep the climate crisis at the forefront of everything we do. So from our packaging to our ads, to the product pages on our website, our social channels, and our lifestyle magazine, telling stories about the climate crisis and social justice is just kind of inherent to our brand.
That makes total sense to me. And it's also clear to me that you have a full range of people purchasing the mattresses, right? So you're not just, speaking to people who might be really, committed and passionate about it already. What have you found that's effective in terms of maybe people who aren't tuned into, when they're making that purchase, caring about, the climate crisis? What have you found that helps, connect with them or communicate just why that's important?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't just want to, Lynn touched on this, right? We don't just want to talk about it. We want to be about it. I think at the end of the day, customers know that it doesn't matter what a company says, it matters what they do. And I think to validate that work, we lean into our partnerships to help legitimize and amplify that message. So, for example, 1% for the planet, we donate to and work closely with vetted nonprofits addressing climate change. We're climate neutral certified, so we measure, reduce, and offset all of our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And we do collective ad campaigns with other certified brands. There's also a climate story when it comes to our supply chain. And I think telling it in these really accessible stories is a great way to connect with people too. So, we own our own organic sheep farm in the Himalayas, and we work with the Global Organic Textile Standard, the Responsible Wool Standard, the Forest Stewardship Council, which really ensure our materials are verified to protect people and the planet. So it's not just us saying it, it's these third-party entities validating us. And I think lastly, we kind of talk about a lot about fearlessness. Like when we talk about this stuff, we might get some angry comments on Instagram. We might even lose a couple of customers along the way. But at the end of the day, we're staying true to who we are, and we're going to gain more business than we lose because of that, I think. I also think it's important to be transparent. Like Avocado is not perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect at sustainability or perfect about social justice. And we always try to acknowledge that there's still work to do. We're transparent about this journey that we're on and how exactly we intend to improve along the way. I think recognizing and acknowledging some of those things and doing that real work, it cuts through some of the BS, some of the greenwashing out there, and it comes across as authentic. Ultimately, I think that's what resonates with people the most. And at Avocado, we're just trying to be true to this genuine belief that what we do can have a meaningful, positive impact on the health of people and the planet.
Yeah, that's so clear to me that you're meeting everyone where they're at, right? So it's like folks that maybe don't know and are just tuning in hey, I need a mattress. That you have messaging to communicate with them, and then some of the folks that are part of really raising the bar of consumer expectations and saying, I know about these certifications and I want to see it vetted, or I want to see action with partners. Really what the concrete evidence and steps that you're also really meeting that. And I'm curious, since this is about, collective advertising, just any, things you mentioned that you've done some kind of collective advertising or work with partners. What's been helpful or what have been some things that have really worked there?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think there's, whether it's through B Corp or climate neutral, teaming up with these other brands can really help amplify that message. We're also part of the Series network, so we're advocating for legislative changes. It's harder for just Avocado to get in the door of state senators in California where we have our factories, but it's a lot easier when we go along with 4 or 5 other significant economic drivers in the state of California. So I think finding those other brands, whether it's through B Corp, Climate Neutral, Series, et cetera, and really it's like our powers combined, we can really elevate that message and institute real change.
Yeah, thank you for all those examples, John. And I'd love to hear, Dustin, you're representing Guayaki, who have taken a pretty unconventional approach to advertising, not doing basically any traditional advertising, and instead really focusing on sharing the product and kind of creating shared experiences to reach people. So tell us a little bit about that approach and what's worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the cool thing about Yerba Mate and plant medicine is when something has such a deep tradition of how it's been used, and if you lean into the function of that, like we're lucky we help grow, harvest, nurture a functional beverage. And so the history of that functional beverage is, getting these epic people from these epic tribes through droughts, famines, conquerings, colonialism, you name it. And then also becoming this sort of brokerage of peace. And so, to be honest, so much of the heavy lifting is in the plant itself. And the more that we lean into that, and the more, to make it more, I guess, academic, it's like leaning into your product, right? Like leaning into what is your service, and then what is the community, or what is the expression around that. And so for us, we haven't wanted to reinvent anything that has already been laid out by the Ashe Guayaki, the tribe. We don't want to lay anything out that's already been. The Argentines have done the work. The Paraguayans, all of these people have just like, look, we come together, we connect, we share this beverage, we look each other in the eye, and we build a little community while we're at it, And so luckily the founders of Guayaki were just disruptive enough to say, let's just start there and see where it takes us. And so 25 years later, that's been the journey of service through transformation through service is, one of our kind of internal guiding mottos. And then, just to connect and serve and servant leadership. And so, even the founders of the company, not only the first 10 years, but even enduring to the 25 years, serving millions of people, Yerba Mate just themselves, brewing it up, packing the gourd, passing it around, So I think one thing that has allowed that to be a guiding light is ultimately, you can expose a lot of people to your product through marketing, obviously. But if you want to build something that is going to require more than just a consumer acquisition relationship, then you need to build into the infrastructure of your company some sauce, And so for us, it's more just been, the sauce was already there with the plants. And so it's really just been a kind of engaged process of listening. Because of how we run our business, we always have so much to learn. And so really it's like, great, what we do know is that we're here to serve, we're here to connect, and then the rest is just a listening and learning process.
That is so beautiful and wise about building out from the plant and the like kind of core communities and that have been guiding the mate for generations. I'm curious, just tell us a little bit more about how you bring that to life in the US, where you're trying to grow and build the company here.
Absolutely. Well, in a pre-pandemic world, it was basically you just get excited and unique individuals to just tell us like, okay, what do you love about the product? Like, what do you love about where you live? And so some guy in Nashville be like, well, I like square dancing at this cool like hip VFW. So can I get some product and bring it to the VFW? And then it's like maybe like a 7-Eleven by there is like, man, all these people are asking for this product. What is this? So it's kind of like creating these unique community-based pathways to integration. And doing that in every different, market, doing that in every different kind of ecosystem and getting to know And then another big one was, in the glory days of having festivals and, getting thousands of sweaty people together. It's like, cool, like, we've got a nice, cold, refreshing beverage. And guess what? The more you drink this, like the more people have a living wage job. And so ultimately just being where people are having unique and peak experiences, as we call it, has always been kind of the driver method of like where we show up and how. A lot of colleges and universities, my experience with Yerba Mate personally was also just, I had so many people who I trusted in my life who were like, hey man, this coffee habit is maybe not sustainable. And I was like, man, come on, dude, everyone drinks coffee. And then someone was like, you should really try this Yerba Mate. And just having that experience was so transformative for me. And so, there's like a traditional path would be, route to market and expos and things like that. And at Guayaki, it was like, let's just go where people are having fun. Let's just give as much away as we can. And then if people ask us for more, like we can tell them where to buy it, And so just really kind of leaning into that. And now obviously with the, with this sort of restructuring of how we're able to gather as we kind of figure all this out together, it's been a really interesting inner look for Guayaki to be like, okay, our whole business model is based on just connecting and serving and sharing. So how do you share from a distance? And so, these are the opportunities of our times. There's such unique times that we live in, and we all get to kind of be disruptive and reflective and just kind of see how we can make breakthroughs. So that's kind of where we're at now, is re-emerging into an opening world and figuring out how we can share safely and bring everyone back to the table.
That's so cool. And one thing I've, gotten to know Guayaki is like from the B Corp perspective of all the like really like inspiring impact examples that you'll have of, hiring formerly incarcerated folks and developing out your own like electric vehicle distribution fleet. But I noticed that the marketing really focuses on the regenerative vision instead of some of those like specific impact practices. So I'm curious if you could just share a little bit more about like why you all kind of focus on the regenerative or come to life aspects of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it boils down to the fact that we're students. And so it's like and this is maybe like an offering to our collective conversation here, is like, for us, we just try to get excited about what we don't know, but where we feel passionate about helping. And, I feel like Lynn and John, you both touched on this really beautifully, but we don't want to make assumptions for a value proposition that like makes someone feel good. It's like, we want to go and like listen to who our drivers are and be like, wait, that was your experience? You went through what? Like, whoa, like, and this guy's like, yeah, there's thousands of people like me. Wait, so there's 1,000 people who just would love a job and just love, it's like, then you can listen and then you learn. But I mean, even though it's been 3 years, like we're still getting started. Our founders took 25 years to even just like figure out like, all right, how can we support these people in the rainforest? One of the guys from South America, and he's still learning how to support people in the rainforest. So for us, it's like, we do know that we can say 200,000 acres. That is our mission. That is our chief executive aim. That is our unyielding goal. We will put everything we have into that. And so 25 years later, we can go, okay, we did that. And nothing would make me happier than in 25 years from now, we can be like, we took 10,000 formerly incarcerated individuals, gave them health insurance, gave them a vehicle, gave them a reason to be proud. But we're so willing to take as long as it takes to even just begin to understand how to provide that equity, how to provide that support. And again, also just there's so much learning that comes with it, even from the infrastructure of electric vehicles and everything like that. So it's like, I think for us, it's like the excitement of seeking where we can add more value, but also just being humble enough to know like, look, like we're trying our best, like we're going to remain curious. And then moving forward, we'll like see what sticks and how we can be the best of service.
Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of wisdom in that, and appreciate kind of like the company examples of like how you wrestle with this and like the really like long-term journey that it is. So thank you, Dustin and John, for that. And one thing is, I think folks, when they like work on, like the messaging, the market, all this stuff, and then, folks kind of move and they advertise on like traditional platforms that might not be aligned with their values. And so for the like kind of like last part of our conversation, we have two folks that are really passionate about that side of it and really just helping people understand what the more values aligned kind of platforms and opportunities are, and to still be like reaching the people that you want to be connecting with and growing your companies. And then also this really big opportunity that we have as mission aligned companies to be doing that collectively, you know, to like be pooling our money, and also really, since we're working to the ultimate same end goals, how are our companies like tools of that? So I'd love to turn it over to Gold Darhood, who's the CEO of a platform called Ads for Earth. Ads for Earth is, we have a little video that I think will do a better introduction than I can. If the tech cooperates, let's watch this quick video. Awesome. Thank you for that video. And Gold, I'm so curious, I'm personally not as familiar with interactive ads. So I'm wondering if you could kind of explain to our audience about interactive ads and some of the benefits of using that tool.
Absolutely. So on the scale of what Dustin was talking about, that ultra high engagement, very personal, sharing stories and experiences to Mad Men, the vast majority of the ads that you're going to use on any sort of digital outlets are still going to be Mad Men, right? And the problem with static ads is that it really brings out the worst in every brand, because it's like a perpetual first date where you're very obliged to like grab someone's attention in the first few seconds. You don't want to say anything that you're not sure if it's going to elicit a positive or a negative reaction, because you really have to keep their attention and hope that maybe you'll get another opportunity somewhere else in the sales funnel, right? That's totally different from the type of work that you get to do in person, where you have that engagement, and you know what? A negative statement is okay, because that's how we learn, right? And so what static ads do is strip us of the ability to learn and grow. And there are a lot of brands for which it's impractical for us to be able to engage every customer. And so what we're really trying to do with interactive ads is make that authenticity and the questioning that you get from focus groups really available at social media scale. And we're really doing it through the ESG lens, where what we want is for you to have both those positive and those negative interactions, so you can make it through multiple steps of a sales funnel and have more authentic conversations where you discover what people are less comfortable with about your brand, the things that you're getting wrong, so you can get them right. And that's really important for all the sustainability aspects, because this is very much a learning process. And everything we think we know now about the science of it, about what matters to people, not only has regional facets and other things that we're kind of like digesting as a society, but also is, very transformational over time, that like our knowledge of science will grow. And so our understanding of the path that we're taking has to grow. And interactivity really allows us to pursue those questions at the same time as we are also pushing product and really build better customer lifetime value.
That's really interesting around developing the longer conversation with folks, where it's not just your kind of most polished message, but having it be kind of a tools on both sides of like understanding like, what do we care about, what do you care about, how does this company currently like fit my values, and what are the ways that this company could change to better serve me. And I know that probably a lot of folks on this call do have social media advertising as part of their strategy. On that at B-Lab, we use it as a tool to reach more people and tell them about being a B Corp and what the ideas of better business are. So how can companies like make this like change? Like walk us through like so folks that are like currently advertising on platforms that they might not feel good about. How do they like shift their strategies and investments to continue to still be reaching people they want to be connecting with?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first part is definitely looking for new platforms. Like, don't give in to the comfort factor, especially because a lot of the feedback that you're getting that might give you inertia where you're like, I don't know if I want to move off of this platform, might be kind of full of it. A lot of platforms like Facebook and other groups are now like stacking the majority of who is seeing your ads with bots. Like, there's a lot of things that they're doing to try and add inertia to you leaving their platforms. And first and foremost, don't give into that. We've got a lot of people though that are coming to us that are just thrilled about, not having to do business with Google or Facebook. And I will tell you that internally for our organization, one of the funnier, more ironic struggles was my own marketing department trying to convince me that I still had to have a social media presence elsewhere. And there's a certain amount of that still feels obligatory, but we can change that. Like literally, we are those customer voices that we want to draw to us away from other unsustainable products. We can do the same thing in advertising. So platforms like ours, work like Dustin is doing. There are a few other platforms that are kind of venturing into the space. Find those, support those, use the strategies that work for your business, and recognize that also the audiences that are coming to those platforms are the ones that are looking for you, right? They're the ones that also understand that this is a movement towards a more sustainable space. And regardless of whether they're currently your customers or whether they're new customers, they are definitely the people that are really in your camp.
Totally. And when I think about like advertising for people on planet, we think about like, growing brands that have good practices, but also that like there's real direct exchange to drive behavior change in people. So especially we want people to be, making more sustainable choices. Are there any examples of how this platform has helped drive behavior change and helping people make better, more sustainable choices in their lives?
Yeah, so this is really interesting because we're kind of doing this on both sides of the platform for us. So one of the big things that we do is we actually drive operational change in the companies who are advertising. So from the client side, it's not just about reaching customers, although that's the only thing that clients pay for is like actual time they spend engaging with their audience. Again, kind of more like a focus group, right? But what happens is when people have concerns and, maybe they're not going to take the hours and hours that it might take to research every little one of them, they can flag those. I saw this article that concerns me about this behavior from this company, or you know what, maybe I work for you and I don't necessarily feel comfortable voicing this, or maybe I live down the street and I'm interested in, speaking up. And this can be for obviously multinationals as well, right? So we take those and we process them. And what's really unique about what we're doing is we have this whole ecosystem around our technology platform. So we get to send those out as packaged concerns to university faculty, professors, investment stewardship groups, expertise-based NGOs, and even peer CEO networks. And we go, is this a real problem? And what can the business do to make it better, to really resolve this fundamentally and operationally? And we turn that into a little business case. We want you to start or stop a specific behavior. Here's the expert reason of why, and here's the demographics of your own stakeholders that care that you do this. And what was really important to me is to follow through one more step, that if you fix the problem and show that you're listening, we will be that intermediary to send a direct message to everyone who ever filed a concern that led to that business case to say they fixed the problem. Celebrate that success so we can move on to the next problem together. And that really gives you an action list item of how to stay in touch with your customers and how to hold larger businesses accountable and how to identify when other businesses in your sector are missing something you can get right, and you can make that as a distinguishing point to your audience.
That's incredible. And I think just kind of bring it together for folks, it'd be awesome to see some of these images. So if we could just advance the slides, just so we see what this actually kind of looks like and what people are interacting with. Anything that you want us to tune in to on about these images, Gold?
Yeah, so one of the big things that happens for us and why it's like advertising for good and like the people's choice aspect is that like we're not benefiting individuals, but the reason that someone comes to the platform and interacts with your ads is they're doing it voluntarily, but they're doing it voluntarily for a philanthropic reason of literally making the earth regenerative. And so they're dedicating for every ad the revenue that comes in to an environmental impact cause of their choice. So that top left is them selecting a project like clean air, clean ocean, something that matters to them fundamentally, that every second that goes by, like in the trailer we had originally, you're seeing this is how many, square meters of ground have now been cleared of brush. They're not going to, catch fire in a wildfire. Something that's like deeply personal and restorative to their communities as well, in the case, because they can also choose school beneficiaries and really get students engaged with doing community projects and lots of other work like that. So it's a large ecosystem. I'd encourage you to check out our website if you're interested. But really, this is what it takes to kind of fundamentally reinvent what it looks like to engage with communities and still use technology to do that effectively.
Awesome. Thank you so much for building that solution and sharing it with us today. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about Grapevine Outdoors work as well. Abram, I know that you all are really, you're an out-of-home advertiser with billboards and other spaces, but you've also really made this commitment to amplifying messages for people on planet. So just tell us a little bit more about how that plays out in your business.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here with you all. So we started this company in 2015, and we're an outdoor advertising provider, meaning we go out and we get lease agreements with commercial property owners to control the ad space, and then we rent it out to advertisers. That's how that industry works. So my business partner and I, since day one, we've been focused on and figuring out, okay, how do we work with more local companies? How do we work with more companies that are doing good things for the planet? And then through Guayaki and working with them, we learned about B Corps. We're like, how do we work with more B Corps? And then we learned about 1% for the planet. So we're like, okay, there's this whole advertising program involved with 1% for the planet, where people can use part of their commitment towards advertising. So how do we tap into that? And with the purpose of, elevating more messages and things that matter. So we stay very community oriented and tapped into what's going on here in Portland and in the world, but here in Portland where our space is especially, and making sure to donate or give big discounts to BIPOC organizations or people that are putting up messages related to social environmental justice. And so yeah, just really it just has to do with like listening, connecting, building community, and not just focused on how much money can we get for this ad space. It's like we have to have this balance of, okay, just traditional clients that pay more, and then how do we mix in donating ads for things that matter, and working with companies like B Corps to try to elevate that whole movement more. So yeah, and another big part of what we do is, in addition to the ad space, we are dot connectors. So we've made it part of our whole mission is to help connect dots where we can, because we wind up meeting all these commercial property owners and then all these companies and then all these community organizations and people doing great work. And it's like, how can we put all of that together? How can we connect dots? And so like one example is there's a whole community solar initiative happening in Oregon right now, in Portland specifically. And so I tapped in with the people doing that, and now I'm starting to connect commercial property owners with massive roof spaces to the community solar initiative. And it's super helpful. And it's like, it's pretty easy for me to just like make the connection, and it's impactful. So that's another aspect of like how we show up and what we do in order to use our industry and what we're doing as a force for good. And we're small and we're only here in Portland right now, but we're wanting to basically show an example of how a company in our industry can, lead with values and be good for the planet and help others to basically like actually take up physical space, physical advertising space. Like how do we take up more physical advertising space in the world, or digital, with things that are going to benefit people and planet. So
yeah. And it's so clear with the visuals. So I'm wondering if we can kind of pull up some of Grapevine Outdoors examples. Yeah.
So yeah, this was the climate strike that happened in Portland. We got connected with multiple different organizations that were involved in that, and we helped print all kinds of signage and give our discount on printing and all kinds of stuff like that. And then we donated these trucks for this big messaging, and got someone to do the graphics for free. And then Guayaki has actually been like one of the most amazing partners that we've worked with on a variety of projects. But like for this, they rented these two Beeline trikes, which are, Beeline is also a B Corp that does sustainable delivery in Portland. And we put Guayaki messaging on one, and then the climate strike messaging on the other, and we joined the whole march. And it was kind of like a party around these Guayaki trikes, because, you know, we're passing out the product, talking to people about it. People are reading about their mission and connecting it with how they're doing good for the climate. And then, yeah, so that was one really fun example. And I want to say, I really love how Guayaki's approach is for each market. How do we connect with the community and listen to them and figure out what can we do that's cool and fun and like true to what our brand is about, but also like new ideas that they're presenting and opportunities, because like they might just not know what's going on in every single market, like on the ground level. So like on this, it was community support provided by, not just like sponsored by. So I really appreciated that. And we have a lot of other cool projects that we're potentially going to work on. So I guess we can go to the next one. This is another Guayaki collaboration with Kiss the Ground. So Kiss the Ground is a 1% for the Planet nonprofit partner or member. And so we connected with them, and we're just like figuring out, how do we work together? I want to bring this message to a billboard in Portland. And so we were tapping on a few different sponsors that aligned well, and Guayaki, it's all about the regenerative movement too. So they were like, we'd love to collaborate on this. And we all collaborated together and figured out the messaging and the imagery, and we put this on a billboard. And it's just not something you typically would see on a billboard. And that's what we love. We want to get messages like this out there, and you know, things help get space for maybe things that wouldn't get space otherwise, by us giving a discount, by, you know, Guayaki showing up and putting in some budget for it, and then collaborating with Kiss the Ground and 1% for the Planet. And then like cool things happen, like this young lady, Sharona, who actually did a collaboration with Guayaki for Tuesdays for Trash, where they do trash cleanups, and it's gotten pretty big. And Guayaki posted about that, and then I saw that and connected with Sharona, and now we're doing a 5th of July cleanup event together. And so there's all this like community stuff that happens when it, like organically and naturally, and it's fun and it's engaging, and you know, you expand your network. So I just thought that was a fun little tie-in story, because they went to the billboard and posted that picture, you know, just because that's where they chose to take their photo for the Guayaki post. So, you know, that's a fun little story. And next slide, please. So this is just a couple more examples. This Beeline track is currently running, because this is actually getting voted on right now, whether or not we're going to stop this Zenith oil rail pipeline project. And this local organization has been working on this for a very long time. They've even like laid down in the train tracks and all got arrested and all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, we just print it, you know, donate the space, and just, you know, it matters to us. And so we're like, okay, how do we hook them up? And then this other one is actually a really cool thing called Save Art Space. It's an organization that does crowdsourcing to give billboard space to artists. So when we connected with them, we said, okay, well, let's focus on climate justice, you know, environmental issues for our theme. And then all these artists submitted, and this was one, there was a panel, and this was one of the ones that was chosen. You can't really see, but this Greta Thunberg image is actually a bunch of little nature images, like waterfalls and trees and tigers and all kinds of stuff. And it makes up her face. So it's pretty cool. So, that's a whole nother thing, is like crowdsourcing and community oriented billboard campaigns. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is in 2020, when everything was really coming to the forefront for, social justice movement. And we had worked with a Black woman from Portland who does billboards, like on a few different projects, but these top two are part of that project. Her name is, sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now, but anyway, her program is PDX Equity Action, and it's the PDX Billboard project. And so we, donated these spaces in order to just elevate the message that she wanted to put forward. So it's not about, we provide the space and they provide the message. So when we donate it, it's like, what do you want to put out there? What do you think is important? It's not my voice that people need to hear, it's your voice. And then, the other two are just more examples of, giving space to Black-owned businesses, Vote Black Portland, because there was multiple candidates in this last round of voting. So again, just like making sure to give space to, share voices for people who might not have the budget and be able to do this otherwise. Yeah. Her name is Britton Washington. There we go. Sorry. And so this was the B Store project. So this was kind of different than our whole billboard thing, but we had this whole connection with the Lloyd Center Mall, doing some projects there. And there was this whole Lloyd Local initiative to bring local businesses into the empty shops inside the mall. And so we took the opportunity to take up this huge old Verizon store and transform it into a B Corp store. So it's a B Corp pop-up store. And the whole purpose was to use it basically as a marketing advertising campaign to raise awareness for B Corps, to, share stories of particular B Corps and brands, and just engage with people and have great conversations. And it worked super well. I mean, there was a lot of people that, came in and just wanted to talk, and a lot of people who showed up and learned about it and were like, kind of had that light bulb moment like I had when I was introduced to Guayaki, of like, whoa, this exists. There's this whole B Corp movement. Like, what is this all about? And then they learn a little bit about it. And like, I remember one woman in particular was like, this is amazing. I've been wanting this and I didn't know it existed. I'm gonna go home right now and like look for companies, B Corps I can work with. And then I know two other companies that I met through this project that they just became B Corps, so projects like this are really important as well, because we got to do the Vote Every Day campaign, share all these stories. It was fun, it was engaging. We gave out samples, we sold products, and it was really just a advertising campaign, though. It wasn't an actual like store to try to make a profit, So yeah, that's another good example. And in combination with that, what was really cool is then we got to do ads outside of the store and kind of use this physical, project, this physical store, in order to do like more of a collective campaign for B Corp and B Store and the Vote Every Day campaign, I mean. So, ads in newspapers, ads in other spots inside the mall. And then on the left there, we did, digital billboard ads. We didn't have the images, so I just showed you which the ads were from the computer. But it was the only time I've seen like the Vote Every Day campaign on billboards. And so that's what we want to do more of. We want to keep growing this whole concept of how do we come together collectively and, do more together in order to take up more space and share messages that matter.
Awesome. Thanks for those examples. I hope that that's getting everyone's kind of creative wheels turning for what we could be doing collectively together. And I think only one question's come through so far in the chat for the panelists. Abram, just that, does the pop-up store still exist, or any plans for it in the future?
Well, it's there, but the the mall is not doing very well, and we don't know what will happen. It's there, but it's not open. It was a holiday pop-up store, and so we'd love to do more stuff like that. We've gotten contacted from other cities and B Corp, B locals asking how to make it possible. It was a lot of work. It was a ton of effort. But the B Corp community here in Portland is really strong. There's a lot of companies and a lot of people to work with. So that's kind of what helped make that possible, I think. We have like 130 B Corps here. So it was a huge team effort. That's where I actually met Karen, who works at B Lab now. And I really just got tapped into the whole B Corp community here and beyond. So it was a really great project for that purpose. But so short answer, it doesn't really exist, but it would be great to do them in other cities and stuff like that.
Awesome. And I think just two more quick questions for you. One, are you seeing businesses sponsor billboards for their nonprofit partners? And then also, have you heard of an organization called Rareform that turns recycled billboards into bags?
I have heard of that. Yeah, we repurpose all of our materials. So they're like heavy duty tarps. So we've donated them to hurricane reliefs. We've donated them to homeless people. We've donated them to farms, like all kinds of stuff. So we repurpose all of the material, but it would be cool to do something like Rareform and make bags out of it at some point. And then what was the other?
Just if you're seeing any companies donate billboards to their nonprofit partners.
Well, yeah. So I think that's part of like one thing I'd like to see more of is how to bring, either nonprofits or just any kind of positive good for the planet and people movement together with companies in order to do like what we did with Guayaki. So like, what we did with Guayaki is I think is a perfect example with Kiss the Ground of, how to do a genuine collaboration that aligns well for both parties and elevates them both, but around a unified message. I think that's like the important part is to bring it because, billboards can be expensive and like we have to make a profit. Our property owners have to stay happy. Otherwise we lose our space. And, so we have to make it all work, but we give discounts as far as like, for nonprofits and things that matter. We definitely try to hook it up. 1% for the planet is a really good thing to consider for companies who want to, connect with a huge network of awesome companies that are doing good things. And they have a whole part of their program where a percentage of your commitment can be in the form of advertising, as long as it's approved by them. So it can be like, I think there was a slide missing in there. Actually, I had a 1% for the planet examples. But they can basically like we've done billboards for Hopworks Brewery here multiple times where they partner with like Friends of Trees and they say Hopworks supports 1% for the planet through Friends of Trees and like talks about that. So yeah, I think that's a good program for doing collaborations, but also just, kind of connecting the dots, like I was saying, like the Kiss the Ground and the Guayaki thing, and they're both in the regenerative movement. So how do we bring more of those kinds of connections together? And then that way we can take up, more spaces with good campaigns like that.
Awesome. And question for you, Lynn, just what's on the horizon for Hella Social Impact and anything you'd like to share out or have this amplified to this group?
Yeah, this is, thanks for that question. I have a trillion ideas just from this panel. I've been taking notes right here about all the things you've all been talking about. I just want to reiterate, that the work that we do is about helping companies and nonprofits kind of find that alignment between the internal work and the external commitments, and create that strategy, create their communication strategy from there. So I'm thinking about, so we work with individual companies as a consultant, and I'm thinking about kind of all the stories that have been told in this panel right now about like how to create strategies that connect to then creating experiences, putting up billboards, getting on Gold's platform. So I'm just thinking about all these things. But also just to reiterate that the Hella Intensive is, we're continuing to create those cohort opportunities for companies. after we have the CPG cohort that's coming up in August, in the fall, I think in October, we're doing another cohort just for social impact companies, B Corps and anyone else. So I'm gonna, again, just in the chat, put that link to that. So I think being part of a cohort is a great way to enter into the work with us at Hella to create that strategy, so then you can then figure out what your campaigns will be.
Completely agree and really recommend that as a starting place. So Lynn, thank you so much for speaking with us today about how to kind of do that internal work to align externally. John and Dustin for showing us really inspiring examples at Avocado and Guayaki, and Gold and Abram for showing us that there are values aligned platforms that we can be using to reach customers, and that there are a lot of kind of collective opportunities left on tap and on the horizon. Thanks so much, Karen, for sharing a few links in the chat for where you can stay in touch. Please sign up for our monthly B Corp Marketers newsletter if you haven't yet. That's the best way to stay in touch with all of the opportunities, campaigns, and collaborations, and also on the Beehive. Thank you so much to our panelists and for you for joining today. Really appreciate it, and good luck with your work reimagining your advertising. Thanks, everyone.